Well, I think that I hit the right button. There we go. We're live. We'll give people a chance to filter in. Normally I do this on my Twitch channel, but today I decided to do it on my YouTube channel instead. Twitch has kind of been ticking me off a little bit lately, and I figured Friday shows are different than the other days that I do the show. So why not try to do them in a different place? We'll see how it goes. So let me grab this and copy. And I'm going to go ahead and let people know. It's time for the mailbag episode. Join me. There we go. We got our Friday mailbag tweet out there. So how's everybody doing today? I hope you guys are having a good day. Bowser. I guess since I peer pressured you into this, I should at least make an appearance. Okay, so truth be told, I think about this stuff all the time, Bowser. And I've been noodling around with doing something different, and I couldn't figure out how to do it differently. And then I figured, hey, I'm doing Friday's episode different than I've ever done it before for the first time on Friday, of course. So, like, that seems as good a time as any to try it out. So, I don't know if you really peer pressured me into it, but I'm glad that you're here. I'm glad that you are here to talk about video games and stuff like that. Plus, my YouTube channel kind of died because I stopped posting anything to it. And so I figure if I do something on there more often, then, you know, people might utilize it a little bit more. I mean, obviously, StadiaCast is doing really, really well. You know, we're over 7,000 subscribers over there. But I think that a lot of them won't want me to do this over there, if that makes sense. That may be something that I end up doing in the future anyway. I may just say, screw it, I'm going to start doing all my shows over there, as they get way more views. But we'll see what happens. And you're right, it does make a good change point. Let me go to the Switchcraft channel. Where is it? Switchcraft. Delete message. Hey everyone, we're live. There we go. We're live right now. But yeah, we've got a bunch, like, I'm worried that today's show is going to go too long. I may have to cut some stuff off just because I've got so many people responded to all of the questions that I asked, which is it's a good problem to have without a doubt. Bowser says, thought you might run into issues with figuring out money from your stuff versus StadiaCast with what's Lloyd involved in. No clue how you do that. Well, I mean, right now, StadiaCast is all by itself, but I make very little money from Nintendo Switchcraft on YouTube. I make very little money from Nintendo Switchcraft on Twitch. So if I started doing that over there, then no matter what I got, it would be more than what I was getting now. Like most of the 99% of my income when it comes to Nintendo Switchcraft is well, when it comes to podcasting in general, 99% of my income comes from Nintendo Switchcraft as the podcast. And then Patreon is the next rung down. And then after that is the... Then it's Twitch. No, then it's StadiaCast stuff, and then it's Twitch, and then it's my Run Jump Stomp YouTube channel. Hey, Chris, how's it going? More of a Connect talk. I'm not sure what you mean about that. So, if you don't follow the podcast, I post questions throughout the week and on Twitter, and people respond to them, and then we kind of have a dialogue that way. Here on used to be on Saturdays episodes, but I decided to do them on Fridays episodes instead. But welcome. If you're talking about the Stadia Connect, we already kind of did that. All right. Well, let me get my recording software open, and I'm going to try and talk quieter because I can already feel a headache coming. Switchcraft, okay. Oh, close. Put that right over there. Hey there, Eric. My Friday's going pretty well. I was playing some Orcs Must Die earlier, and I got up to, I think it was wave 23 before I ended up getting killed, or before I ended up losing. Chris says, I admittedly don't use Twitch, but I'm surprised your Twitch channel revenue is not up there. Well, so we have... I mean, I'll just be straight up. I make roughly, I don't know, a little bit less than $100 a month on Twitch. So it's like very low as far as income from Twitch. It's not a good platform for monetizing unless you're giant. And, you know, I'm never going to appeal to the crowd that would make my content giant. So I'm like, I've been sitting at right around that level for a couple of years now. It's really never really grown past the initial. And that's okay. I don't actually do this for the money. I do it for, I mean, if I did it for the money, I'd continue to do a Saturday episode, because I'm losing money by not doing the Saturday episode. But I felt like I needed to take a little time. I needed to take Saturdays off for my sanity. All right. Well, you know what I think I'm going to do? I think I'm going to grab my headphones, because that'll keep me from shouting, because I'll be able to hear myself. Test. Okay, there we go. You discussed this before, and I agree that Google just needs to work on the current Google Gaming part of YouTube. Oh my God, YouTube Gaming is just YouTube in general, as far as the streaming experience, unless you're on a 1080p screen, is pretty bad. I will say this, I've been watching more YouTube streams on my phone, and it's really good. Like, it's much better than the Twitch app. I really like it. Stay sane. Corey, I do what I can. I do what I can. All right, yeah. Wearing my headphones, I think, does help, because I can hear myself. And then I know that I need to stop shouting all the damn time. It's something I need to get in the habit of doing, is just wearing my headphones. Chris, I'm a big YouTube watcher because of great content creators like yourself. that the words live chat are burnt into my screen. Keep up the good work. That's awesome, man. Thank you. I just, you know what would make YouTube live streaming 1,000 times better is if they just fixed theater mode. If they fixed theater mode, we'd all be set. There wouldn't be any reason for anybody to leave YouTube, because theater mode is fine when you're just watching a video, but when you are trying to watch a live stream, theater mode takes the chat and moves it down, and then you can't see it anymore. It's just so dumb. Hey, Bowser, squeaky wheel, you know? All right. Well, hey, let's record the show. I'm going to shut off the music. Actually, you know what? I'm just going to leave the music on in the background. There's no reason not to. It's not going to be in the podcast part of it. And it's not distracting, I don't think. All right. Excuse me. Okay, let me hit record. Oh, let me do this.
Have you experienced the awesome power of the Panasonic Real 3DO system?
I just realized my speakers are still on. Let me turn my speakers off.
Well, excuse me, princess.
There we go. All right. That's good. I really hope Hitman has crowd play. The idea of picking which weapon and disguises approach that sounds really cool, Cal Hal. I haven't played any of the Hitman games, so I don't know anything about them really, except for you're a bald guy and you've got a barcode on your neck or some nonsense. And they made a movie out of them once. All right, here we go. I just turning the music down just a little bit so that it's not distracting to me. And I think we're good to go. Hold on, I gotta hit this button again.
Introducing the next generation from Nintendo. New Super Mario World, created especially for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. It's a bit more exciting, a bit more challenging, a bit more graphic, a bit more colorful, a bit more realistic, a bit more levels, a bit more secrets, a bit more enemies, a bit more friends, a bit more sound, a bit hotter, a bit cooler, a bit weird, a bit more revolutionary, a bit more Mario, a bit more of what you want. It's 16-bit, and it's yours only if you get new Super Nintendo. Now you're playing with power, superpower.
Hey everybody, it is Friday, and for the first time, that means it's time for a mailbag episode. Now, previously, I did all of my mailbag episodes on Saturday, but I talked about this earlier in the week that, actually, I believe I talked about it last week, that I was going to basically nix the Saturday episodes just to give myself a little more free time, you know, for my sanity, basically. So the Saturday mailbag episodes got moved to Friday, which means Friday is now the time when we're going to be talking about all of the things that you want to talk about. Rest assured, if there is big Nintendo news, then I will talk about it right here on the Friday episodes. Of course, there's not any really huge Nintendo news right now. The biggest news, I suppose, would be that we've got a brand new Mario game, which came out, I believe today, or maybe it was yesterday. Yeah, it was yesterday on the 16th. So you can now play Paper Mario, the Origami King. I did not pick it up. I'm not really interested in it, especially after watching the Treehouse Live thing that they did. I'm not excited about that game. But hey, if you are, then tell me all of the reasons why I'm wrong. Tell me why I'm missing out on an awesome game. You can get a hold of me on Twitter at RunJumpStomp. Just to remind everybody, Switchcraft is brought to you live every Monday and Wednesday on my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/RunJumpStomp. And I figured if we're starting something new with the mailbag episodes on Friday, then what I would try is to do the Friday episodes on my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/runjumpstomp. It's been a long time since I posted anything to that YouTube channel, and I figured what I would do is I would just do our Friday mailbag episodes over on my YouTube channel. We'll see how it goes. Again, that URL is youtube.com/runjumpstomp. Of course, this is your July 17th reminder that the podcast awards are on their way. Nintendo Switchcraft has been nominated twice before. You can nominate it again if you want by heading on over to podcastawards.com. And in addition to that, 143 Pixels has also been submitted. So if you want to nominate either Nintendo Switchcraft or 143 Pixels, then that would be awesome. Tell your friends, help out, get one of those two shows nominated for the best gaming podcast in the podcast awards. Nintendo Switchcraft has been nominated twice, still haven't won. So the only way for us to win is for you guys to nominate. Now, speaking of 143 Pixels, the last episode of season 3 of 143 Pixels is coming out on Tuesday. So if you haven't been listening all along, head on over to anchor.fm/143 and check out all of that other stuff. And I wanted to let you know that some episodes of season 4 are already done and ready, including my interview with Andre Seegers from Game Explain, my interview with Brian Ibbett from Coverville and the Morning Stream, my interview with Tony P. Henderson from The Avengers. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, that's okay. Just Google Tony P. Henderson and Avengers. And I just posted yesterday, I think it was yesterday, my interview with with Per Schneider from IGN. So season 4 is going to be a really, really good season already. And if you are on the Patreon, which is patreon.com/runjumpstomp at the early access tier, you can already listen to those episodes of season 4 that are already done. All right, we've been talking for a while. Let's get to the mailbag.
For play on the Nintendo Entertainment System. Are you up to the challenge?
There we go. And we'll save that. NSC 558. I may redo the beginning of that because that went too long, I think. But I'll do that after the fact. Let's record the rest. All right. So if this is your first mailbag episode, basically throughout the week, I send out questions on my Twitter account, which is @RunJumpStomp. People reply, and I talk about what you guys are talking about on the show. Sometimes it's Nintendo stuff. Well, most of the time it's Nintendo stuff, and then sometimes we talk about other stuff as well. I did get a question that I basically said, what are your burning questions and gaming thoughts for the mailbag episode this week? And I did get a couple of replies. So let's get started with the first reply. It comes from Nintendo Fit. They said, question for your mailbag, what is your least favorite game of the major franchises and why? So, all right, this is a really, really good question. And it leaves, there's a lot of subjectivity in this particular question. So let's start with Mario. My least favorite Mario game has to be probably New Super Mario Brothers 2 on like 3DS. And that's the one where they really focused on collecting as many coins as you could or something like that. And I just felt like it was really, really forgettable and kind of a rehashed version of the previous new Nintendo, or I'm sorry, new Super Mario Brothers games, which I feel like I don't really care for the art style. It's very kind of bland and vanilla and just doesn't jump out at me. As far as Zelda, I would say my least favorite Zelda game, and I don't know if this is the fault of the game or the fault of me, but my least favorite Zelda game would probably be Zelda 2. And the reason for that is because I never really, when I played it back in the day, I didn't really understand that you needed to grind in the game in order to get powerful enough in order to really do well. And so I always felt like the game was way too hard. I didn't treat it like the RPG that it is, which is so weird because, you know, Zelda has never been an RPG. And then, but Zelda 2 is this one example where they decided to go with these RPG mechanics that are more similar to something like Final Fantasy, where you have to go and, you know, grind against low-level enemies in order to get enough experience points to increase your stats so that you can make yourself more powerful. And I never did that. I never got that. Maybe that's because they didn't do a good job explaining that that was something I could do, or maybe it was because I was a little kid and, you know, by the time I played Zelda 2, which is on the shelf behind me, like right there, if you're watching it over on my YouTube channel, I think I had other games that were not nearly as difficult. So Zelda 2 is probably my least favorite, and I think most people would probably say Zelda 2 is their least favorite. As far as the other big franchises, we could go on about this for a really long time, but I'm not going to. So here's my question to you all for next week. It's Nintendo Fit's question. What's your least favorite game in the major franchises, and why? That's a great question, and you guys can let me know on Twitter. I'm going to tweet this out. You can reply to it, and we can continue. Now, let's move on to Teacher Eric said, I wonder if the original Metal Gear will ever be released on the Switch. If I remember correctly, it was released on the NES in around June of 1987. The cover art appeared to have Michael Biehn as the star. If you don't know who Michael Biehn is, that's the guy that played Kyle Reese in Terminator, the original Terminator. And they straight up just stole that guy's likeness and put it on the cover of Metal Gear. Now, why would Metal Gear not come to the Nintendo Switch? Well, because it was, first off, it was made by Ultra, which I believe was a Konami like subsidiary. The thing that is really weird about Nintendo back in the NES era is they had a rule that no developer was allowed to make more than 5 games a year. So what the developers or no publisher, I'm sorry, no publisher was allowed to publish more than 5 games a year for the NES, and this was to try and make sure that people did a good job on their games, so we didn't get, you know, ET on the Atari 2600. And I think that was a really good move, but in order to get around that, companies would make a secondary publisher that just, it would allow them to get around it. So I believe Ultra Games was a subsidiary publisher of Konami, and that's the way that works, I believe. And they made Metal Gear. Now, would Metal Gear ever get ported to the Nintendo Switch NES stuff? I don't know. And I don't know that it should be, because it's really not that good of a game. I know that the Metal Gear Solid series is supposed to be fantastic, and I've never played it. I played a lot of the original Metal Gear back in the day, and it just isn't very fun. It's super, super hard, and it's just not fun. Will it ever come? I don't know. I think that it's unlikely, as Konami seems to have washed their hands of the Metal Gear series. And, you know, then they fired Kojima and, you know, all of that drama. And for them to say, yeah, Nintendo, go ahead and bring that Metal Gear game to the Nintendo Switch, just doesn't really seem like it makes a lot of sense to me. All right, one more question from this thread. And that one comes from Seth S. Scott, who he's been on the show before. He made a fantastic game, like indie game called, I believe it's called Membrane, if I'm remembering correctly. Really, really interesting game where you are you know what? I don't want to tell you anything about it because I don't want to spoil anything. It's a very interesting and weird game. So Seth Scott says, what are the Ninties / fall holiday big releases? So what are we supposed to get from Nintendo holiday and fall? The first answer to that part is nobody knows, Seth. Nobody knows. And then the second question is that 3D Mario Collection scrapped? And when will we know more about Breath of the Wild 2? We're not going to know anything until Nintendo stops being so tight-lipped about it. I mean, they have said that, hey, nothing like coronavirus concerns did not actually impact the games that are supposed to come out this year. But that's easy to say because they haven't told us what games are supposed to come out this year. So we don't really know if they've had to delay anything. It's funny, you know, I was talking about 143 pixels, and I was talking to Per Schneider, and I asked him what he thought about when Breath of the Wild 2 was going to come. And he said, and this isn't part of the interview, this is like an after we wrapped up thing. He said he thinks that it probably got delayed. Even though Nintendo, and he didn't say this part, but even though Nintendo said nothing got delayed, he thinks that it got delayed. Now, does that mean it was nobody ever said that it was supposed to come out holiday 2020 other than me? Like I said, it's coming holiday 2020 back when they first announced it. It's going to be the perfect way to hit back against Sony and Microsoft with their new systems. But he thinks that, you know, all of the motion capture stuff and things like that kind of thing really gets put on the back burner when you can't have people near each other. So Breath of the Wild 2, if you're asking me, I still think it's coming out this year. I still think it's coming out holiday this year. Fingers crossed. I don't have any reason to... there's no secondary information telling me that, but I think it's going to. I really do. But according to Per Schneider, he doesn't think it's going to come this year. Anyway, let's move on to the next topic.
Hey, who's telling this story?
There we go. Eric Peterson says, I was interested in AC Valhalla until they showed something I didn't like. Now I'm not getting it because of one combat mechanic and what you will fight against. Okay, I don't know anything about that. Chris says there are also talks of multiple Switch SKUs, which could potentially be released next year. Any wish list for Switch 2? Hold that thought. So I'm between topics right now, and somebody in chat said something very, very interesting. They said, any wish list for the Switch 2? And I want to take just a second and respond to that and say, I don't think we're getting a Switch 2 for at least another 4 years. Nintendo has said many, many times, look, we're not trying to compete with these other companies. And while obviously they are, because they make video games and the other companies are making video games, Nintendo is kind of just doing their own thing. And that's what they've always done. So for them to make a Switch 2 when the current Switch is doing really, really well would do two things. First off, it would sell a whole lot of Nintendo Switch 2s. Absolutely. And then secondly, it would bifurcate the market. You know, like now if I'm a third-party publisher, who do I make a game for? Do I make a game for the Switch or the Switch 2? Or do I hit both? In which case, you know, I have to program for the lowest common denominator being the Switch. So then the Switch 2 games just don't do as well. However, there's another way to look at this and saying, well, now there's third-party games that can be made for the Xbox One, or I'm sorry, the Xbox Series X and the PS5, that because they're, you know, the Switch 2 has more powerful hardware, we could then port over to that. So maybe that would give us more games. And I mean, honestly, there's too many variables for me to make a prediction on whether or not they'll have a Switch 2. But I personally, like, if I were Nintendo, I wouldn't pull the trigger on that yet, because the Switch is just selling so well, and you don't want to bifurcate the market yet. But if we suddenly start, if once the new consoles come out, if you see a sharp decline in Switch sales, then maybe it's time for Nintendo to, to pull that fire alarm. Anyway, that's a really good question, Chris, in chat. I appreciate the thought.
You've been Back to the Future of the movies. Now go.
There we go. I don't know what happened there. Let me just do that again. There we go. Save. All right. Excuse me. Do you Breath of the Wild 2 or Mario Kart 9? Do I think Breath of the Wild 2 or Mario Kart 9 would be a better response to the holiday to complete this? Breath of the Wild 2. I mean, think of it this way. Mario Kart, what can you do to Mario Kart to justify it being Mario Kart 9? Bowser says, devs did a good job on Xbox One and One X as well as PS4 mid-gen refreshes. That's true, but that's not a Switch 2. Like, when you say a Switch 2, I assume, yeah, it's backwards compatible with the Switch, but it's also much more powerful hardware, and that means games that run only on the Switch 2. And you don't want to have games that run only on the Switch 2, not this early in the life cycle of the system. You know what? We're going back to chat again. Jeremy Roesel says, do you think Breath of the Wild 2 or Mario Kart 9 would be a better response for the holiday to compete this holiday with the PS5 and Xbox Series X? And for me, I would say Breath of the Wild 2. It had nearly early on in the Switch's life cycle, it had it had over a 100% attach rate. Everybody was playing that game. It was incredibly well received. It was incredibly well reviewed. It is a masterpiece of a game. So Breath of the Wild 2 would do really, really well. Now, the other part of that equation, Mario Kart 9. My question about Mario Kart 9 is, what can you do to the Mario Kart formula in order to justify selling me another Mario Kart this generation? With the art style that they've chosen for Mario Kart, and let's be honest, they're not going to change the art style because that's very identifiable. For the art style that they've chosen for Mario Kart, I don't know that you can get much better than what the Nintendo Switch Mario Kart 8 Deluxe looks like. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you could, but would it really matter all that much? So graphics isn't really good enough of a reason for, I think, most people to upgrade from Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, which sold like gangbusters on the Nintendo Switch, to Mario Kart 9. You can already drive on the walls. You can already drive underwater. You can already fly through the air. What else can you do with Mario Kart in order to justify it? And the only thing that I can think of is make Mario Kart Ultimate. Kind of follow what you've done with Super Smash Brothers, where they're like, and everybody's here. But with Mario Kart, it's Mario Kart Ultimate, and you have every track from every Mario Kart game in the past. You have every character from every Mario Kart game in the past, as well as new characters, including mechanics like things like Double Dash, or bring in new characters from other IPs, like you did with Animal Crossing and they did with Zelda. Make it Smash Kart if you really want to go crazy with it. But the idea that they can make them, like, look, Nintendo is very, very good at surprising everybody. Like, if you had asked me, hey Bill, what do you want from Mario Kart 8 I would not have said the ability to drive on walls. That's not something that would have come up when you asked that question. And then they did it, and it made for some incredibly cool level design. But I just can't imagine what else they can do with that IP in order to justify the 9 at the end of it. So what I would say, make it Mario Kart Ultimate, include every character and every track and every mechanic ever, throw in a story mode, and on top of that, do DLC that when you buy it, it is bound to your account, so that when the inevitable Switch 2 does come out, and the next Mario Kart Ultimate game comes out that has better graphics, if I buy that, I also can port forward all of the DLC tracks and racers that I have unlocked throughout the whole time. Make it more of a games as a service type of thing. What do you guys think? What could they do to Mario Kart to justify a 9 at the end?
Reach from his Pac-Man.
There we go. All right, hit save. Take a drink. Oh my goodness, I'm not going to get to any questions from the show notes or thoughts from the show notes. All right, let's talk about this one. Let me just make sure I'm in the right spot. I am. So earlier this week, well, you know what? I probably started talking before I started recording. So earlier this week, I found out that Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles would not support local multiplayer. And I asked if that would impact the likelihood of people purchasing the game. 61% of people who responded to this said no, it would not impact their likelihood of purchasing the game, and 39% said yes. Now, I kind of went back and forth with Jordan Williams, who replied to this. So he said, sharing a screen takes away from the whole point of the Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles system. Every player needs their own screen. You can't share. That's why each player needed a Game Boy Advance in order to have their own screens. Now each player just has a Switch screen. I'm not bothered or surprised by this at all. And he is 100% right. Okay. I want to be clear about what I meant by this question. And I didn't mean with one Switch and 4 controllers, people all sharing one screen. I meant 4 Switches without access to the internet and being able to play that way. All right. So I kind of responded to Jordan, and he said, oh, okay, I'm sorry, I misunderstood the issue. It's still not a problem for me. If you have Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles, then you probably also have decent enough internet to play with you with your couch partner. Since Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles is an eShop only game, you have to download it. And let's be real, it's 2020. Internet should be nigh near universal now. Now, I will respond to that by saying, at the beginning, I'm with you. The last part, though, that it's 2020 and internet should be nearly universal now, you're not wrong that it should be, but it very much isn't. Where I live, I have fantastic internet. My dad lives less than 5 miles from my house. He cannot get high-speed internet at his house. Like the local internet company just gave him the bird. He already had a trench dug to bury power lines, and he bought the conduit that he would need to put the cable through, and he called up Spectrum, or I believe it was Time Warner at the time, and he said, how much for you to hook this up for me? I have the wire. Like, he had everything, just needed them to hook it up. All right? They told him $5,000 just to hook it up. So, yes, technically, he could have access to high-speed internet where he lives But for $5,000, most people are going to say, well, no. And so that's what he did. He said no and ended up getting like one of those things from Verizon that gives himself Wi-Fi at his house. So it's not universal. It really isn't. However, what I will say is you have to remember that the Switch is a portable device and you're not always playing it at your house or where you have Wi-Fi. Let's imagine that we're driving down the street. I'm driving, my wife and 3 kids have their Switches out, and we're driving someplace. We're going on a road trip, and everybody brought their Switch, and it used to be that we'd all be playing Animal Crossing. But now, maybe they all want to play Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles. Now they can't because local multiplayer doesn't work. Now, let's be fair. It's possible that Square Enix totally was meaning the same thing that Jordan Williams was meaning. Maybe Square Enix was saying you can't play with one Switch and 4 controllers. But what they said was there's no local multiplayer. There's only internet multiplayer. And so you have to have access to the internet, and this is a big and, you also have to be subscribed to Nintendo Switch Online in order to play this game at all, really. And I think that might be a problem. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe you don't have to be subscribed to Nintendo Switch Online because the game is coming to iOS and Android as well as and PS4. So maybe because you're using Square Enix's stuff instead of Nintendo stuff, there's no Nintendo Switch Online needed. We already have precedent for this. You don't need Nintendo Switch Online in order to play Fortnite on the Nintendo Switch. So I just think that it's very... I think that there's more clarification is needed from Square Enix. Of course, the original tweet where I got this was in Japanese, and I used Google Translate to figure out what they were saying. So maybe this is all much ado about nothing. Granite T Rock in chat says, it's nice not to use cell phone data when on the go. Sometimes it's not the greatest depending on the destination. That's true. If I look at my phone right now, I have 3 bars, which is perfectly acceptable. A mile down the road, I have 1 bar. 1 bar, which means that the internet's terrible where I live when it comes to Verizon. And I used to have AT&T. AT&T was even worse. So you just have to remember that the Switch is a portable device and it doesn't always have access to the internet. That's something to keep in mind when we think about that. But Jordan, thank you very much for getting back to me. I think that he made some good points. His final point was, I hear you, those are good points, but those aren't issues to me personally. So it doesn't bother me, which is why I answered the poll the way I did, which makes perfect sense. All right. He then goes on to say, you make good points, but at the end of the day, it feels like less of a big deal in the grand scheme of things in gaming. And I will agree with that 100%.
Frogger, Sega's arcade game, now a home video game from Parker Brothers, the ones to beat.
There we go. There's a helicopter outside my house. It's very loud. Hey, Vaxxer, how you doing, man? All right. So we can close that. Let's see. What else? Tell you what, guys. I'm going to take a quick break. And I'm going to go grab some more water. Because I'm out. I'll be right back. Stick around, everybody. back. I'm just shutting the curtains. All right, I'm back. Thank you for being patient, you guys. Why can't I hear anything? I mean, I can hear myself. Maybe it's just a quiet song. You just binge listened to Per and Andre's episodes. I'm glad that you liked them, Fisto. And thank you for being an early access supporter. All right, so this one is an older topic, so I'm going to hold on to this one for another time. Ooh, hold on a sec. I just about forgot about this. I also asked everybody what they thought was a holiday or a likely release date for Breath of the Wild 2. And I said that my guess is holiday 2020. 19% of people said 2020. 63% of people agreed with Pear and said 2021. And 17% said even later. So we'll find out more in the future. I just wanted to add that in. All right, let me find out where that goes. So where did I talk about? That's the guy that played Kyle Reese in Is That 3D Mario Collection? So be a really, really good season already. But I think it's, and the other companies are making video games. But with Mario Kart, it's Mario Kart Ultimate, which to Mario Kart 9. Where did I talk about that? If we suddenly start, if once the new consoles come out, if third-party publisher, who do I make a game for? Do I make
Lloyd, what's
the
up,
Switch
man?
Or the Switch 2? They said any wish list they'll have a Switch 2, but then maybe it's time for Nintendo to, art in order to justify it. And the only thing that I can think of is make Mario Kart Ultimate at surprising everybody. Like if you had asked me, hey Bill, so I'm trying to find where I talked about Zelda art style because that's very identical to. It is Roasel says, do you think Breath of the Wild 2 or okay, so it must be here to make a Switch 2? And somebody in chat said something very for Nintendo to. I appreciate the thought. Sometimes we talk about other stuff as well. I did get, and by the time I played Zelda 2. Oh, wait. And all right, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to mark this. And I will add that in later. I will find that in post and put it in the right spot. Lloyd. How's it going, buddy? All right, so I can remove this from... Wait, why can't I remove that from bookmarks? I'll go into my bookmarks afterwards. Let's close that. So this question I actually asked a couple of weeks ago, and I never got around to it. And it's the... Let's start that over. So this is a question that I asked a couple of weeks ago and never got around to getting it in the mailbag. So just because I post a topic and don't talk about it that week doesn't mean that it's not coming back, because I bookmark all of these topics and come back to them later. My question was, what are some dead video game genres that you have fond memories of, and what was the best game in that genre? So for me, I said the on-rail shooters, and Operation Wolf was like this really great example. I don't know if it's the best game in the genre, but it's definitely a great example. I think I was trying to find a GIF of Area 51 and I couldn't find one, and I decided to go with Operation Wolf anyway. Nintendo Fit, they said they were a huge fan of Sid Meier's Pirates. It'd be fun to bring that game and genre back to life. Chris Becker replied, games like TNC Surf Design and Skater Die, I love those games back in the day. So for me, I hated Skater Die, but TNC Surf Design was so good. It had a skateboarding level and it had a surfing level, and the skateboarding level you could choose between like this guy that had a weird, almost like a luchador mask on, and this other guy that had a face that looked like Plastic Man from the old Super Friends cartoons. And then you could go surfing, and you could surf as a gorilla. It was just this weird combination. TNC Surf Design was such a really, really good game, and I think that I'm going to play some of that later just to get some retro goodness. What a fantastic game. I would love to see that come back. And it is definitely a genre that has died off. I mean, not skateboarding games in general, but just a side-scrolling skateboarding game where you're just trying to, almost like a platformer where you're attached to the platform that you ride on. It's so good. I love TNC Surf Design. So that's a really, really, really good answer. And I'm pausing because I just closed that damn that thread. There we go. All right. Blaziken replies, they said you don't really see the side-scrolling beat-em-ups anymore. I was always fond of the Simpsons arcade game, but at home it was always Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 4, and on the go it was always Double Dragon 2 on my OG Game Boy. Man, now I gotta play some. I would recommend that you check out Streets of Rage 4. Fantastic game. And I would also recommend very highly that you try out Streets of Red. Both of those are very new games of this genre, Blaziken, and it feels like you missed out. Paul Michaels got back or replied, and they said Zombies Ate My Neighbors, which was this very cool, totally kid-safe version of a almost like a twin-stick shooter. Where you and one other person had to go around shooting zombies with water pistols. It was a very fun game. My son and I had a blast playing that on Super Nintendo back when, I don't know, when I first started streaming on Twitch back in the day. He and I sat down and streamed some of Zombies Ate My Neighbors. It's a really fun game. Robert Hood replied, arcade, football, basketball, and hockey. So less of these simulation style games and more arcadey stuff. Now, Robert, I've got some good news for you. Now, I don't know if it's coming to Nintendo Switch, but apparently 2K Games is working on a football game. And because EA has the rights to simulation football with the NFL, that means that whatever this game is, it's got to be more arcadey, and so you're going to probably enjoy that more. What I will also say is check out Mutant League Football, I believe. I got a review copy of that on Nintendo Switch back when it first came out, and it's very reminiscent of the old what's the word I'm looking for? The old Madden games from like the 1990s. It felt very much like that, of course, with decapitation and giant spikes and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm with you. I don't like simulation sports titles. I much prefer the arcadey stuff. And then lastly, the point-and-click adventure Maniac Mansion was mentioned by Durham Region Dad, which is really cool. What I will say is that there are tons of point-and-click adventures out there. And there are lots of them on the Switch, and some of them have touchscreen support, and some of them are just perfectly fine with controller input. I'm trying to think of the name, and maybe somebody in chat remembers it. I'm trying to think of the name of there's a point-and-click adventure title on the Nintendo Switch. It's very, very good, and you play as these two investigators who are trying to solve a crime in this weird town, and it feels like somebody took X-Files and mixed it with Twin Peaks and then turned it into a point-and-click adventure game. And I think maybe it's like Thimbleweed or something like that. I can't remember the name of it. If somebody reminds me in chat after I finish recording this segment, I will come back and say it at the end. Anyway, it's really great ideas from everybody for these dead genres that need to be brought back. But hey, maybe some of these aren't quite as dead as we thought they were. Save. Is it Thimbleweed? Thimbleweed Park? Yes, it's Thimbleweed. I had it right. All right, that means I don't have to go in. It's called Thimbleweed Park for those of you that are here. The Infinity Runner genre. I wouldn't be opposed to that. Oh God, I played one. I played an Infinite Runner on my Switch recently. Let me go to my all games. Let's see if I can find it. Was it 19? No, that wasn't it. That's not it either. What is the name of that game? It's by Last Played. Infinite Runner. Which one is it? It's such a good game, too. I had a lot of fun with it. It was not super epic. It was not Demon Pit. Oh, this is going to drive me crazy. It had such a cool 80s vibe to it. That was just really, really good. Trying to find it. I can't find it. This is the problem when you have too many games on your on your Nintendo Switch. Because I should have found it by now. I don't know. It was an Infinite Runner, had a super 80s vibe, and a very 16-bit style to it. It's so good, too. Bit Trip Runner? No. No. It's a very indie game. Top Run? I don't think so. Oh, yes, it was Top Run. You are 100% correct. Yeah, it was Top Run. Yeah, I wouldn't describe Super One More Jump as an infinite runner. That's really more of a puzzle game. Well done, Fisto. This is a really good game. Oh, Lloyd, it's right up your alley, dude. You're going to love it. All right. Let me bring up the patrons so I can thank our producers. This is the part of the show where I say thank you to our producers. These are the people who have gone over to patreon.com/runjumpstomp and joined at the producer tier or higher. That would be people like Paul Bramblett, Orange Thunder, Abigail 13, Eric Smith, Jordan Fords, Matt Hadfield, Bowser, Travis McGuire, Trucker Paul, Brian Reese, Josephine, and Bustler. Thank you all, and thank you to everybody else who is either in part of the Buck a Month Club, or perhaps you are in the Early Access Club listening to all of those early episodes of 143 Pixels. Thank you all for making it possible for me to continue to do independent gaming news. So thank you very much for that. If you didn't know, we've got a huge over 1,500 people community on my Discord server, which you can find over at runjumpstomp.com/Discord. I don't like to call it my Discord server. It's our Discord server. We've got a huge community. And, you know, the other night I was sitting here with my wife. We were watching the Fantastic Plastics on Twitch, which is a fantastic 80s/90s weird band. And then on Fridays they do a stream, and we were sitting there, we were watching the Fantastic Plastics, and I was looking at my Discord channel off to the left, and I could see that I had like 2 or 3 different groups of people who were all in voice chat playing games together. And I was like, man, I love that. That makes me so happy. And I'm not even in any of those voice chats. They're all just hanging out together. So if you're looking for a bunch of people to hang out with, join us over at runjumpstomp.com/Discord. And thank you very much for listening. You can get a hold of me on Twitter at runjumpstomp. And if you are looking for ways to support the show, runjumpstomp.com/thank you. The music that you are hearing right now is Corneria Starfox remix by Noteblock. It's fantastic music. I hope that you enjoy it, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. The show is part of the giant-sized Team Up Network. For more information, check us out at gstu.net. There we go. Now I just got to edit. Yeah, there's no need for intro and outro command because we can have all the information just right down below the stream. You love this shirt? Yeah, my wife got this for me. We're huge fans of the IT crowd. Get the music back on. Well, I will say this. I was worried that doing this on my YouTube channel that I would have fewer people. And while chat wasn't as active, I can see that there's more people watching now than are usually at the Twitch channel, which is kind of weird. So I think Fridays I'm going to continue doing this. I do appreciate that though, Fisto. My wife is awesome and gets me all kinds of cool stuff. She is awesome. I know, Vaxxer's mad. Mondays and Wednesdays will still be on Twitch. For the foreseeable future. Answer. Fisto, I agree with you. The Twitch mobile app is not very good. If you open emotes list on YouTube, do you get the lag? No. Are you on Open it and scroll a bit. I'm not getting any lag. But I'm not on Chrome. I'm using Microsoft Edge, the Chromium version. So maybe that's it. Maybe you have too many things. Fisto's loading right now. Like the whole browser is lagging. No. Fisto, how do you get that one? How'd you do that, Fisto? Now everybody can do it, and I don't know how. It's under YouTube emotes. Oh, okay, I see it now. I must have scrolled right past it. Tight buffer. Oh, nice. Okay, so Andrew Wilson's also getting the lag. So now here we have to find out. Vaxer, are you both both of you guys using Chrome? I switched to Microsoft Edge, and I'm very happy with it. Oh, okay. Andrew's using the Brave browser. Oh, weird, because I get no lag at all, but I'm using Microsoft Edge. It runs faster. Vaxer's stuck on Netscape. Oh my god. Vaxer, update your stuff, man. Yeah, I really like the YouTube app for live streaming. Like, it's very good. You disabled the integrated ad blocking and the lag is now gone. Interesting. I'm using ad blocking on Edge and I'm not getting any lag. Well, everybody, I think that it's time for me to go. I appreciate you hanging out with me, doing the show. You guys are awesome. What I am going to do, I think I'm going to set this as unlisted after the fact so that it doesn't mess up my results. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. Anyway, thank you guys for hanging out with me. I'll see you around. Bye. No stream tomorrow, Vaxer. Not that I know of. Trying to get Saturdays as free time.